You're sitting in your college dorm room in 2015. Your guidance counselor promised you one thing: a degree equals financial security. Your parents believe it. Your friends are signing up for loans. The university marketing team has convinced you that this $120,000 piece of paper is the gateway to everything. So you sign. Over 4 years, you borrow $135,000 total when you add interest, federal fees, and a few private loans to fill the gap. You tell yourself it's temporary pain for lifetime gain. Now it's 2026. 11 years later. You're 33 years old. You've paid $89,000 so far. Your remaining balance, $71,000. You've been making payments for a decade, and you've barely touched the principal because the interest is so aggressive. This is the moment most degree holders have, the moment they realize the system lied to them. Not subtly, directly. The promise was never kept. But here's what makes this truly insane. You could have done something completely different, and you'd be sitting on $400,000 right now instead of owing $71,000. My name is Benny, and today we're going to calculate the actual cost of the college degree the way colleges never teach you, with brutal mathematical honesty. Not the dream, the reality. Let's start with what they tell you versus what actually happens. The college pitch goes like this. The median college graduate earns $62,000 per year. The median high school graduate earns $38,000. That's a $24,000 annual premium. Over a lifetime, it's worth over $1 million. Sounds incredible, right? Except this statistic is a masterclass in deception. First problem, survivorship bias. That $62,000 average includes the 5% of graduates who became doctors, lawyers, and engineers. It includes the people with family connections who got networking opportunities. It includes the ones who worked 3 jobs while studying and made it happen. It does not include the 40% of your graduating class who ended up in jobs that didn't require a degree, or the people who switched careers twice and never used their major, or the 23% of college graduates who are underemployed working jobs that typically require just a high school diploma. For those people, the college degree was purely an expense with no corresponding income premium. Second problem. That comparison is apples to oranges because it ignores opportunity cost. If you didn't go to college, what could you have done with that time and money? Let's imagine 2 people starting at 18. Person A goes to college. Total 4-year investment, $135,000 in loans, plus 4 years of lost wages working. Let's say you could have earned $25,000 per year. That's $100,000 more in opportunity cost. Total investment, $235,000. You graduate at 22 with a $135,000 debt and start earning that $62,000 salary. After taxes and expenses, you're taking home maybe $45,000. Person B doesn't go to college. At 18, they get a job in skilled trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Starting wage is $28,000. Uncomfortable. But by year 3, they're at $45,000 as they develop specialization. By year 5, they're at $55,000. By year 8, the good ones are at $75,000, $90,000. No debt, no 4-year delay. And they've been saving money the entire time instead of going deeper into debt. Let's run the actual numbers on this. At 22 years old, Person A has a $135,000 debt and a $62,000 job. Person B has 0 debt, 4 years of work experience, and $45,000 per year trajectory. Now, both of them are making $55,000 at age 26. But person A is just starting to break even on their degree while carrying a 6-figure debt. Person B has been saving $10,000, $15,000 per year for 4 years while working. That's $50,000, $60,000 saved. No debt. But this is where the story really gets dark, and most people don't talk about it. The real cost of your degree isn't just the money you borrowed. It's what that monthly payment does to your life for the next decade. Your student loan payment is $380 per month. That sounds manageable until you layer in all the other obligations competing for that money. Rent, $1,200. Car payment, $450. Insurance, $180. Groceries, $400. Utilities, $150. Phone, $80. Streaming services you forget to cancel, $65. You're already at $2,525 before we talk about dating, saving, or any actual lifestyle. Your take-home is $3,200. You've got $675 left per month if you're disciplined. The system told you that debt was an investment, so you took $380 of that to service it. But here's the problem. That $380 is compounding against you in ways the brochure never mentioned. First, that student loan debt damages your ability to take risks. You can't quit a terrible job because you need that paycheck for the loan. You can't negotiate aggressively for a raise because you can't risk unemployment. You can't move to a new city for an opportunity that pays less initially, but has bigger upside because your debt is geographically inflexible. You're locked. Your degree was supposed to open doors. Instead, it installed a lock on your financial cage. Second, that student loan impacts your creditworthiness for the next decade. Want to buy a house? Mortgage lenders look at your debt-to-income ratio. That $380 student loan payment reduces your borrowing power by about $100,000, $150,000, depending on your situation. So even after you finally pay off the degree, it delayed your wealth-building years where compound interest actually starts working for you. Third, and this one, nobody talks about the psychological weight of it. You wake up every day knowing you made a choice at 18 that's still bleeding you at 33. Not in abstract terms, in real dollars every single month. That psychological load affects your mental health, your relationships, and your decision-making in ways that are hard to quantify but real to experience. Now let's talk about what happens if you invest the difference instead. Back to person B, the tradesperson with no debt. At 26, they've accumulated $60,000 in savings with zero debt. They invest that $60,000 in a boring index fund at 8% average annual returns. Let's skip ahead to 40 years old, when both people are thinking about retirement and what their net worth looks like. Person A, the college graduate, finally paid off their student loans at age 351, 3 years after graduation. Started investing seriously only after age 35. Invested approximately $8,000 per year from age 35 to 405 years. That's $40,000 total invested, growing at 8% for 5 years. Current portfolio, $60,000. Home equity, $150,000, bought late because of debt constraint. Total net worth at 40, $210,000. Person B, the tradesperson, zero debt at 40. Invested $60,000 at age 26, and it's been growing for 14 years at 8%. That $60,000 is now $189,000. Invested an additional $8,000, $10,000 per year from age 30 onward. Total invested for 10 years, $100,000, now worth $180,000. Home equity, $220,000, bought at 28 with down payment saved. Total net worth at $4,589,000. The college graduate at 40 has $210,000. The tradesperson has $589,000. That's a difference of $379,000. And the tradesperson had better sleep, more career flexibility, and never spent 4 years sitting in a classroom learning things they'll never use. But wait, someone's going to say, Nick, but the college grad makes more money after all that. Let's check that claim with actual labor data. The top 20% of electricians make $85,000, $110,000 annually. The bottom 20% of college graduates make $32,000, $40,000. Not all college graduates become high earners. In fact, 68% of college graduates end up in jobs where their salary would have been accessible without the degree. You paid $135,000 to not change your economic trajectory. And here's the part the universities really don't want you to know. The degree earning premium has been shrinking. In 1980, the average college graduate made 1.8x what a high school graduate made. Today, that ratio is 1.34x. The income gap is collapsing while the cost of college has increased 169% since the year 2000. You're paying more to get a smaller payoff. Let me address the argument everyone makes. But you need a degree to get the job in the first place. Okay, true for some careers. If you want to be a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, yes, you need the specific credential. But 60% of college degrees are not in these fields. They're in business, psychology, communications, liberal arts, and for those fields, employers increasingly care about your portfolio, your experience, and what you can do, not your degree. Tech companies famously hire people without degrees. Skilled trades don't require degrees. Sales doesn't require a degree. Entrepreneurship doesn't require a degree. But the system has created a magical thinking where we believe the degree is a universal passkey when it's actually only useful for maybe 30% of jobs. Now, the university will tell you that college is about more than just money. It's about personal growth, life experience, meeting people. Great. You know what else does that? Literally moving to a new city and working a job while living with roommates. You get the same social experience, you get paid instead of going into debt, and you actually build work experience that employers care about. Here's what makes me truly angry about the higher education system. They've gamified the system so that not having a degree feels like failure, even when the degree itself was objectively a bad financial decision. A kid who chooses trade school at 18 is somehow less ambitious than a kid who borrows $135,000 for a psychology degree. This is cultural propaganda disguised as meritocracy. The university system is in crisis, and they know it. Enrollment is declining, more people are questioning the ROI. So what do? They cut costs to the institution while raising tuition. They hire adjunct professors at poverty wages. They lobby the government to make student debt non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, which you can't do with any other debt. They make the loans stickier, so more of your money flows to the lenders instead of to you. And the fintech companies built entire businesses around managing your student debt. There are apps designed specifically to help you optimize your repayment strategy. Why? Because the system is so complex that you need a financial advisor just to understand what you're paying into. That's the tell that the system is broken. Here's a question. If a $135,000 of 4-year education is such a good investment, why is it not a standard business loan? Why do you need federal government backing? Why can't you discharge it in bankruptcy like every other bad investment? It's because the lenders know that if you could actually default on it like a normal loan, the universities would have to justify their pricing, and they can't. The real problem is timing and knowledge. At 18, you don't have the analytical capability to run these numbers. You don't have the experience to know what you actually want to do. But the system pressures you to make the single most expensive financial decision of your life at an age when you're also legally not allowed to sign a binding contract for a car without a cosigner. It's predatory. Now let's talk about the income-based repayment plans they offer you after you graduate. You qualify for income-based repayment, where you pay 10-20% of your discretionary income toward the loan. Sounds humane, right? Except there's a catch. Payments don't actually cover the interest, so the balance grows even as you're making payments. You could pay $300 per month for 20 years and still owe more than you borrowed, and that unpaid interest eventually gets, wait for it, forgiven. But you pay taxes on the forgiven amount as ordinary income. So the government forgives $80,000 in student debt, then sends you a tax bill for $80,000 at your marginal tax rate. If you're in the 24% bracket, you're paying $19,200 to the IRS for the forgiveness. It's forgiveness tax at the end. Meanwhile, the people who could actually afford to pay for college, wealthy families, just pay cash. Zero student debt, zero interest, zero tax complications. So the student debt system is a mechanism for transferring wealth from middle class and poor kids to the financial industry and the universities. It's incredibly effective at it. Let me address the last defense people make. Well, I had a great experience at college. I met my spouse. I learned things. Okay, great. But you could have had that experience for much less money at community college for general education, then transferred to a university for specialized training. You didn't need $135,000 of debt to find your spouse at a keg party. You could have found them at a community college keg party for $20,000. The four-year residential university is a luxury product marketed as a necessity. For the 18-year-olds with wealthy families, it's a fine choice. You're spending money you would have inherited anyway on an experience and a credential that opens doors. But for middle-class kids taking out massive loans, it's a wealth transfer mechanism that looks like opportunity. So here's what the actual advice is if you're 18 and facing this choice today. If you know exactly what you want to do and it requires a specific credential, engineering, medicine, law, fine, do the degree. But get it from a state school, not a private university. Get in and out in 4 years. Work summers. Keep debt under $60,000. It's still a load, but it's survivable. If you don't know what you want, and let's be honest, most 18-year-olds don't go to community college for 2 years. Get your general education, explore your interests, and keep costs to $20,000. Then, if you decide you want to transfer to a university for specific training, you can do that with real clarity about what you're paying for. If you're interested in trades, apprenticeships, or entrepreneurship, skip the degree entirely. You'll be ahead of your peers by age 30 by such a margin that the degree won't matter. If you're already drowning in student debt, refinance if you can qualify. Look into income-driven repayment if it helps. But more importantly, don't let the sunk cost fallacy trap you into defending the decision forever. You made a choice based on incomplete information at 18. You can make different choices now. The nuclear option, if you're deeply underwater, there are some income-based repayment forgiveness programs that can wipe the debt after 20 to 25 years of payments. It's not ideal, but it's better than paying for 30 years on a loan you might never finish. I'm not recommending it, but it's a real option that exists for people in true hardship. The cultural shift we need to stop treating the 4-year residential university degree as the default pathway to success. We need to celebrate the electrician making $80,000 with zero debt as much as the mid-level manager making $75,000 with $200,000 in debt. We need to tell kids at 14 that there are 10 different ways to build a life, and college is just one of them. The number that matters, when you're 40 years old, it won't be your degree on your wall that makes you financially secure. It'll be the difference between what you earned and what you spent, multiplied by time and investment returns. The person who makes $10,000 more per year but spends $20,000 less per year is wealthier than the person in the reverse situation. The degree wasn't the variable that made the difference, the discipline was. Buy the boring path, skip the prestige. Make boring financial decisions at 22 that make your life incredibly rich at 40. That's the whole game.